Okay, I'm going to call attention to something interesting in the play here that I don't know if you caught. It's easy to kind of go by this too quickly. Nora says in Act 2 to Torvald, just remember how those nasty gossips wrote in their papers about Papa and slandered him so cruelly. I think they'd have dismissed him if the department hadn't sent you up to investigate, and if you hadn't been so kind and open-minded toward him. And Torvald says, your father's official career was hardly above reproach. All right, what is this about? This is how they met. Torvald met Nora because Torvald was sent by the bank as an examiner to look into something fishy her dad had done that people were talking about, like embezzlement or forgery or misuse of funds. And when Torvald got there, he was kind and open-minded toward him. In other words, he let him off. He overlooked something. Why? Because he liked his daughter. Torvald then says in Act 3, I should have suspected something of the kind. I should have known. All your father's flimsy values, be still. All your father's flimsy values have come out, it's a typo, have come out in you. No religion, no morals, no sense of duty. Here's the kicker, friends. You ready? Oh, how I am punished for letting him off. I did it for your sake, and you repay me like this. Oh, I love that so much. So, Torvald went up to investigate Nora's father. That's how they met. And what did he do? He let him off because he liked the daughter. And now Nora has also been a little bit sort of bending of the truth and of rules in order to get something done, which is to save her husband. Torvald throws it in her face. But what do we notice in that? Friends, we notice that Torvald's morality and ethics are awfully situational, aren't they? He's full of rules about what Krogstad should do and what Nora should do. But we find out in this admission that his own rules of right and wrong and law and order, and you can't bend the rules and money is so important, you have to handle it the right way, they don't amount to anything if he likes a pretty girl and wants to let her father off so that he can sort of get in with the family. His morality is not so perfect. And we should not be surprised to see that in a realistic play. In melodrama, you have people who have black and white morality or awfully close to it, right? You know, pretty close to it. But in realism, there is no such thing. It's all conditional. It's all relative and relational and situational. And people talk about their ethics and morality as if it's black and white. But we as the audience looking at the science experiment see that it's much more complicated and that the world is more complicated and nuanced and gray than characters want to admit it is, and more than melodrama suggests that it is. Does that make sense? It makes me like Torvald more that he did this because it makes him less perfect. Also, we really are not supposed to hate Torvald. The play doesn't work if you hate Torvald. If you make Torvald a villain, the play doesn't work. That's a big mistake. All right, Nora says that she was hoping there'd be a miracle, right? That she says this in context of the big revelation of what she's done coming out. She thinks there could be a miracle. And the miracle that she hoped for is that Torvald would take the blame upon himself. And she really wanted him to do that. And then she wanted to not let him do that, right? She wanted him to try to sacrifice himself and say, no, I did it, or I knew about this forgery, it's me, not her, out of deep love for her. And then she wanted to not let him do it, to say, no, it was me. She wanted to write a note and kill herself, or make a confession and then kill herself, or something that she thought would be romantic. It's not, but she thought it would be. But he didn't do that. When he found out what she did, he turned on her and he said, you are terrible, get out of here. And then when he realized he was personally off the hook, he said, oh, we're going to be all right. Everything's fine. But it's not fine for Nora because her world just crashed. What she thought was that she lived in a melodrama, and she found out she didn't live in one. She thought she lived in a melodrama where her hero husband would try to sacrifice himself for her out of love, and she could romantically and tragically not let him do that. But she doesn't live in a melodrama. She lives in the real world where people will try to save their own butts, where people will not sacrifice everything for love beautifully. And it breaks her heart. And she's forced to face a reality that she's not faced before, which is that she's not really living a life. She's playing in a dollhouse. She says, Lenora says, when he'd done that, I was so utterly sure that you'd step forward, take the blame on yourself and say, I am the guilty one. And Torvald says, I gladly work for you day and night, Nora, and take on pain and deprivation, but there's no one who gives up honor for love. To which Nora says, millions of women have done just that. That's Ibsen. That's Ibsen. And I just also wanted to tell you that there was an alternate ending to the play that Ibsen himself wrote, and I know that's going to break your heart, but he did. In 1880, there was a German production of A Dollhouse, and the actress in the role, whose name was Hedwig Niemann-Raab, wanted to play Nora, but she said that she could not play Nora as written. She couldn't do the play as written because, quote, I would never leave my children. And she refused to play a part that was so, in which a character made a choice that was so different than what she would do. Now, friends, I'm sure she played parts where women killed people, and she didn't think that that reflected badly on her. But this one, that was a contemporary play and an edgy, realistic play, and a play in which a woman did something so socially ostracizing as leave her children, Niemann-Raab wouldn't play it. She thought it would ruin her career, and she thought it was just too much. So Ibsen said, if you're not going to do the play as written, I'll write an alternate ending rather than you sort of fudge something on my play or just never do it. So actually, he was afraid somebody else would just write an ending for him. So he wrote it. Isn't that interesting? And this is the ending. Nora says, we can make a real marriage out of our lives together. Goodbye. Torvald says, go then. But first, you must see your children for the last time. Let me go. I will not see them. I cannot. He draws her over to the door. You shall see them. He opens the door so that she can see them. This is a melodrama ending, right? So she can see them. Look, there they are, asleep, peaceful, carefree. Tomorrow, when they wake up and call for their mother, they will be motherless. Nora, trembling, motherless. Helmer, as you once were, motherless. She struggles with herself, lets her traveling bag fall, and says, oh, this is a sin against myself, meaning she's going to compromise everything she believes in, but I cannot leave them. She half sinks to the floor, and Helmer says, Nora, and the curtain falls. So that's the ending, the happy, quote-unquote, ending that Ibsen wrote to keep somebody else from writing one for him. I just thought you'd find that interesting. And notably, eventually, the actress Hedwig Niemann-Raab did do the actual play. She performed this ending for a while, but as acceptance of Ibsen's play grew over the last couple decades of the 19th century, it became acceptable for people to see the real ending he wrote, and then she did perform the actual ending. Her refusal to do it at first is sort of back in line with conversations we've had previously about the difficult terrain that female actors have to navigate with their public image and the roles they play, how they present themselves, how they are seen in order to keep a career going. They have to deal with considerations of how they're perceived that are very different than their male counterparts. All right, take a quick quiz on this, and I'll catch up with you in a couple of days. Bye.